Well, hey everybody, this is Dr. Austin Perlmutter. In this video, we're going to further our conversation about the interfaces between the outside world and the inside of our bodies. Now, as a reminder, this is where so much of our health takes place. And as I mentioned in a prior video, the biggest interface between the outside world and the inside of our bodies, it's in the gut. Okay, so why should you care about this? Well, in the gut, this is where our bodies are able to sense our environment. This is where a lot of diseases begin, and it's also a place that we're able to significantly improve our health if we know what we're doing. So in this video, we're going to go over the outermost layers of the gut and how that responds to the environment. And so we're going to use actually a visual representation of this, and this is kind of a new experiment with these videos, so if you like this, if it's helpful to you, let me know in the comments, give me a like, or just send me a message. Alright, so this is going to be the visual representation of the gut, and it's kind of a weird thing, because if you think about the inside versus the outside, if you're inside the gut, that's technically outside the body, but as I set it up here, so this up here, this side, is going to be the food tube, or the GI tract. So that is continuous with the outside world and your mouth. This side here, inside, is going to be the other level of this. So this is the side that is not in contact with the outside world. So you see all of these little cells, these little kind of cells along the lining here of the gut. These are called gut epithelial cells. And so epithelium, as you may know, is a type of tissue. And epithelium lines our organs, many of our organs. It's also what we have on our skin. And, these epithelial cells are cool in and of themselves, but they actually have these little appendages almost, these little microvilli, which are these very expertly drawn lines on the top of them. So why do microvilli matter? Well, this is a way to expand the surface area dramatically for these cells. Okay, you would think that here you are in the gut, and you have, again, this is the inside or the food tube, and this is the other side, or the inside the body side of the gut. You would think that this is enough of a barrier to keep out all of the potentially pathogenic substances that are inside of our gut. But you'd actually be wrong. So there are a whole lot of other defenses that we have that prevent our bodies from getting exposed to toxins, whether those are from our food or from bacteria or bad things that get into our GI tract. And so, we have this thing called the gut microbiome, which is made up of all these bugs that are living in our gut, and sometimes those are helpful, sometimes they're harmful. A lot of the time, they're just neutral. But we don't really want those guys penetrating directly through these epithelial gut cells. So we need some sort of a barrier between the epithelial cells and the bacteria. It turns out the epithelial cells have actually built a moat, which sounds kind of crazy, but it is the case. It's called the mucus layer. So let me draw that now. So basically, this mucus layer runs over the top of the epithelial cells in the gut. So it's really important, this mucus layer is really important because it helps protect the epithelial cells from this exposure to too much toxins and pathogens. It's actually made, secreted by these cells that are called goblet cells. And so I'm going to draw those now in red. So some, again, of these cells are actually goblet cells, and they're the ones that are producing this mucus layer. Okay, so what else is going on in there? So it's not just about the mucus, even though the mucus is important. The mucus kind of gets bacteria stuck, it blocks them from getting into the gut. But there are actually two other important kind of molecules that reside in this mucus layer that protects us from the outside world, from these pathogens. The first of these that we're going to talk about is an antimicrobial peptide. So as the name implies, this is a chain of amino acids that is basically fighting off microbes or pathogens. And so these antimicrobial peptides are secreted out into that mucus layer. They have cool names like alpha-defensins and lysozyme, and they are a chemical attack against these pathogens. These peptides are made by Paneth cells, and the Paneth cells are located in what you would expect something to be called the crypts of Leverkusen. So I'm going to draw those in now. these guys will be purple. So these here are our Paneth cells. And so again, these Paneth cells are secreting these antimicrobial peptides. So we'll just draw in purple, these are these antimicrobial peptides. Okay, and as I mentioned, there are two different molecules that are really important that live in this mucus layer. So the other one, in addition to the antimicrobial peptide, is actually an antibody. It's an immunoglobulin. Specifically, it's IgA. And so IgA is a subtype of immunoglobulin made by B cells. And those B cells actually can produce all of the different types like IgM, IgG, but in the gut they produce this IgA, and as they secrete it out into the gut lining, or through the gut lining and into this mucus layer, it's actually called secretory IgA. So again, it comes from these B cells, which are immune cells, that live in the gut. And so those B cells actually live in what are called Peyer's patches, which are immune centers in the gut. So I'm going to draw here. This is a Peyer's patch, and these are all these B cells. And so these B cells, again, they put out these immunoglobulins, specifically IgA, or immunoglobulin A, that then gets into the mucus layer. Okay, so why do we care about this IgA? Well, so it actually binds to and disables these bacteria that are potentially pathogenic. The other thing is it gives signals. This IgA helps to provide signals to other immune cells, letting them know, here's what's going on out there in the world, here's what's going on in the mucus layer. Okay, so we've established that before toxins and bugs are able to get into the gut cells, they have to go through multiple layers of defense. This includes the physical barrier of the mucus, as well as the chemical defenses, molecular defenses, which include these antimicrobial peptides, as well as this secretory IgA. And as I mentioned before, the gut is where a lot of our diseases begin, so we've got to keep it healthy. How do we take what we just learned and convert that into something that we can do to preserve our health? So I'm going to go into this in more detail in further videos, and actually we're going to get into these Peyer's patches a lot more, because it turns out it's not just about the B cells. There are T cells, there are dendritic cells, there's a whole lot of extra signaling going on, but I want to leave you with something that you can apply today. So let's go back for a moment to that mucus layer. The mucus layer, as I mentioned, it keeps things from getting direct penetration into those gut epithelial cells, but it also does something else. So it's kind of like a backup in case our gut bacteria aren't being fed the right way. So as you know, feeding your gut bacteria with prebiotic fiber is really important to keep them healthy. But if we don't give them that prebiotic fiber, they find something else to eat. And this mucus layer is actually made out of primarily carbohydrates that the gut bacteria are able to ingest and use as a fuel source. So that could be a good thing if you're not giving your gut bacteria the necessary fiber. It's actually, though, in the long run, a bad thing, because you want to have a thick and strong mucus layer. So if you are eating the standard American diet that tends to have very low fiber, you may actually be giving your gut bacteria that mucus layer that you really need for your defenses, and that might predispose you to disease. So the bottom line is you want to make sure you're eating enough fiber, prebiotic fiber, things like jicama, things like Jerusalem artichoke, dandelion greens, onions, all of these things contain prebiotic fiber that is going to give your bacteria something to eat so it doesn't gobble up your mucus layer and keeps you in the best health possible. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, let me know if it was helpful to you, and I'll be posting more of these. Have a great day.